The first post that we're going to discuss is Politics is the Mind Killer.
One of the famous ones.
One of the famous ones, and at least definitely my top 5. Oh, I did figure this out, and I'll link to it in this episode. Wait, no, it'll be linked to in last episode. So listen to it in last episode if you want. I discussed last week that there was, or last 2 weeks ago, that there was definitely an audio version of the Darwin, like, what is truth really parable. Mm-hmm. And I was like, are you sure you didn't do it, Inyash? And you were like, I'm pretty sure I remember that. Turns out you were right. It was on the Rationality from AI to Zombies podcast.
Ha, I knew it.
Yeah, so it wasn't you.
Okay.
But there is a great audio version out there that'll be linked to on the episode. So
fantastic.
Go check that out from last week's and this week's. Why not?
Yeah. We should probably also include just a standing link in our posts to the podcast version of the sequences as well.
Oh, yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah.
And we'll start doing that too. There are audio versions of the podcasts, of the sequences. There are actually 2 podcasts that cover it. Yeah. There's 2 guys with awesome accents who do it, and we're doing it for fun and free. And then I bet the people who did it more professionally did it for free, or some volunteers or something, maybe. I'm not sure.
No, I believe they paid for it, and it was originally a thing you can buy, and then Miri went ahead and released it for everyone for free.
Oh, the Overcast? Or no, wait. Because I had those.
Okay.
I had a couple of those sequences. I thought these sounded different, but I wasn't sure. I'll double check. I didn't actually check.
Okay, yeah.
Well, one is AI Rationality to Zombies, which is curated differently.
Yes, they both are.
Yeah, so they're both doing Rationality from AI to Zombies. The old ones...
Oh, right, so they'll be in a different order, and they won't have all of the ones.
In any case, there are 2 that you can listen to, so... Right. And they're both free.
Yeah.
All right. So, why don't you lead us in with Politics is the Mind Killer?
Okay, Politics is the Mind Killer is basically what it says on the tin. We did talk about this briefly earlier, where someone pointed out that in the original Politics is the Mind Killer post, everyone remembers it nowadays, at least I certainly did, as well, as being a sort of an injunction not to speak about politics in the rationality circles. Like, save your rationality for other, more important things.
I'm going to go ahead and just volunteer that that's not how I took it on any reading.
Oh, no?
Just that's not a good introductory subject for non-rationalists.
Yeah.
And that's the point, right?
That is the point.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised when I reread this, because what I remember from, God, it's been more than 10 years now, but what I remember taking away from it, at least after a month or 2 of time had passed, was just like, we don't talk about politics here. And I mean, at the time, since he was still writing the sequences and we were going through this, it was an actual injunction because we were trying to do the whole learning of rationality thing, right?
Yeah, and that would make sense. And he even says in this post that, like, this was when he was overcoming bias, and he wasn't going to say overcoming bias isn't political or isn't apolitical, but I'm going to try not to be, just because this isn't, we're not going to get bogged down on reds versus greens or blues versus greens or whatever.
Yeah.
On every little point we're making here. So we'll just talk about other, like, non-inflammatory stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was, that was an interesting perspective. And obviously, the community has moved away from that over the years and done more and more with politics. But for a while, there was, whenever someone brought up politics, people just like, politics is the mind killer, don't go there. And, it's true. So in the post, it says that in the ancestral environment, politics was a matter of life and death. It could get you kicked out of the tribe, which would lead to you dying of, starvation and exposure and whatever. And also, it could just give people license to kill you if you were on the wrong side of a debate.
And if you're on the right side, you could kill your hated enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's talking about evolutionary psychology, he says politics were life and death in the ancestral environment. In a way, I would argue that it still is. While in most parts of the world nowadays, you probably won't literally be killed for your political opinions. Having the wrong ones can still definitely cost you your career and make you a social outcast.
Yeah, I think I think it depends on how severe your opinion is, or your positions on some of these, and like how severe your workplace.
Like for the most part,
part of the reason, like why that's the case, why people are so insane about it, is because of the ancestral architecture reasons, right?
And I think, I don't know. I want to know. Okay, so I was going to say, I think it's not that bad, because in workplaces all across the country, there's Trumpers working side by side with, I don't know, SJWs, right? They just don't talk about it at work because they're there to get a job done.
Most work, it depends on the workplace, but yeah.
Yeah.
Like a lot of places, it just doesn't come up, or it doesn't matter, or, or you're encouraged, not encouraged, but you're perfectly within your rights to have a fun, heated debate at lunch. But, if you're talking about it on the clock, you're going to get told to shut the fuck up, and that doesn't matter what you're talking about.
Yeah. But then, I think about back to the 50s when people were being barred from doing anything in their industry because someone said that they were a communist.
Yeah, and today isn't the 50s, and there are people still, losing their jobs and stuff over their political positions, and some of those are like white supremacists, who are outed for, I don't know, doing crazy white supremacist shit, and then they get fired.
Yeah.
So they could say I was fired for my political opinion, and I don't want to be uncharitable and say that they weren't, but they were fired for having really, really bad ones. So I don't know, like there's a way to spin it that isn't, it's not even a spin, but like there's a difference between if everyone at my office was pro gun control or like say pro gun taking them all away, whatever you call it, whatever that version of control, and I was for like stringent gun control but still private ownership, if I got fired over that, that'd be insane. That'd be more insane than me being fired for, on my personal time, publishing blog posts about how Jews are destroying the environment and like sending money to the MAGA bomber or something, right? So does that make sense? Am I on a tangent, or am I on a tangent that's so obvious that's not even worth talking about?
No, it makes sense. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird the way politics can still shape life because, like just was saying, the wrong politics in the wrong office will hurt you.
Yeah, or having the wrong opinion, like, among your friends can lose you a lot of friends. Like, there's still consequences. It's just, I thought that saying that in the ancestral environment kind of, like, downplayed the fact that this is still a thing that we do need to worry about. It's not like, as a society, we've all gotten over politics.
Right.
Or, like, they don't matter anymore. They still do.
But I think he's pointing out one of the reasons that we are this crazy about politics is because back in the day, it used to be a thing where you could literally die or have your reproductive success greatly hindered.
And the madness that we still have surrounding politics is from that environment.
I think most people nowadays, if they were to check out of politics entirely and not have a political opinion, it wouldn't really impact their life, their day-to-day life for the most part.
Yeah, where like so that might be a part of it too. Depending on, unless you're like at a rally with a mob, like saying I don't have an opinion on this is probably not going to get you stoned, right?
Yeah. And even saying I do have an opinion on this and it's different from most people's isn't going to be that big a deal.
Yeah. But I just see what you're saying, that people are still crazy about it. And I guess I just didn't read it to be saying that we're not still crazy. I think he was saying this is why we're crazy. It's not politics was the mind killer, it's that it still is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still think the argument for tabooing politics in certain discussions is solid. Because despite how much our political opinions shape our views of the world, and then like how we end up self-selecting the news we see and the groups we associate with, our own personal political biases can be really difficult to notice. So I really appreciate what the sequence is trying to do, even though we kind of moved away from it.
Yeah.
Oh, somewhat.
Yeah, no, I think that I see the goal there, but I do think that it's important to be able to have discussions about whatever, including politics stuff, but you need to make sure that everyone on board with the conversation is able to have it sanely, right? So, I mean, there are things that, depending on the subject, probably any one of us wouldn't be able to, like, have a good conversation about whatever this is, right? So it's like, all right, I'm going to recognize that I am not equipped to have a conversation about that.
I think the fact that we do get so testy and hesitant to talk about things is sort of a proof that it is still a mind killer.
Yeah, and it's at least now we're aware of it.
Yeah.
There's also one of my favorite passages in all the sequences in this, which is why it makes my top 5 favorites.
Cool.
It's that politics is an extension of war by other means. Arguments are soldiers. Once you know which side you're on, you must support all arguments of that side and attack all arguments that appear to favor the enemy side. Otherwise, it's like stabbing your soldiers in the back.
Yeah.
And
you see that shit a lot.
Totally.
I've done that shit.
Yeah, me too.
And it's hard not to. And so, like, that's why I happened to get off Facebook right about right around before Trump won the primary for the presidency.
Just in time.
Good
Just in
move.
time, yeah. but even like in the months leading up to that, I'd see people posting something about how I can't think of what it is, and it would be something that was like not true and egregious, and like, hey, this whatever it is, I can't remember what it is. The point is, people are publishing lies about Donald Trump, and I'm like, you guys, there are so many bad truths about Donald Trump. Let's share those instead. Because if we're out there lying to each other, or lying to pat ourselves on the back, people are going to be able to point to the lies and say, look, they're lying over there. We don't have to worry about the truth of things that they're saying because they lied on this one occasion.
Yeah.
And so it turns out that it was surprising how polarizing that is. To say, hold on, guys, that part's not true.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
How dare you? You're a supporter? No, that's not what I'm saying.
I told you about the feng shui thing, right? One
Yes.
time? Yeah. Oh my
Wait,
god.
tell me.
Oh, well, there was a whole thing where I was just friends with, a bunch of, I still am friends with a bunch of left-leaning people, but this was like someone very SJW-ish. and she posted on Facebook about how she could not believe that her coworker got a white person to do feng shui for them. And I was like, because it's less bullshit when they come from the area. And I got like ripped apart by her and one of her friends, as in like, how dare you be racist and shit. I'm like, look, it's still bullshit. I don't care about the race thing. And it was a big thing about I was attacking the wrong person, I guess. I was one of those stab in the back people now.
I do like flipping it on and be like, you guys are being racist ones, assuming that Chinese people have this magic that they can do.
Right.
That sounds like super tropey to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
And we got to fight the Chinese magic with the America magic and
What's American magic?
the ability to turn human pain into money.
Or like that
A lot of
movie,
people can do that.
We're better at killing dragons. Because wasn't there that Matt Damon movie a few years ago? Or wait, no.
Oh,
What?
Not Matt Damon. Who was it?
it was Matt
It was
Damon,
Matt
yes,
Damon,
yeah. I don't think he was better at killing dragons than the stars.
Wait, then what was he in the movie for? Because he was just around?
Yeah, he was like one of the co-stars. First of all, Chinese people love Matt Damon.
Right. Oh, I knew all about
Yeah,
why
yeah,
he was
yeah.
in it and stuff.
Right.
But I was joking about that's what we have to bring to the table is dragon killing skills.
I mean, he apparently was contributing in some way to the war effort, right? He was in the movie.
I didn't see the movie.
Me neither.
What was this, The Great Wall?
That's
Yeah.
the one, yeah. Yeah, there was
I didn't
dragons
see
in
it
it.
either. I heard it's good though.
I heard it was. It
People that
looked
did
fun.
watch it say it was actually surprisingly good. So I should probably watch it.
If you watch it, you turn into a racist, though.
What if you steal it? There
Yeah.
you go.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm glad we solved that problem.
Yes.
But so I think what I like about this is that we chose some inflammatory examples, but the idea that when having a discussion, and I think everybody can think of an example from their lives where they're talking about, it's this is kind of the absurdity of like if I know your position on legalization of drugs, I can guess, or maybe that's probably more centrist now, but if I know your position on abortion, I can guess your position on immigration and gun control and I don't know your support of your what do you call it, comfort with Russia or something, right? Which has gone way up in the Republican Party in the last 5 years.
So fucking weird, man.
from around 10% to about 35% now. The fact that those all are on your side of the war, and why would they be correlated? Those beliefs have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing that you might be called out for saying, oh no, I'm a liberal, but I think that I should be able to own guns, and somebody might call you out for that. Or no, look, I'm a conservative, but abortion that's obviously settled. People should be allowed to have them. You'll be called out for that too. And that's not even like a policy debate, but that's just a I guess in the metaphor, different battalions, but they're all on the same side on the same army.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's madness.
So he said that the reason we want to taboo, or he wants to taboo talking about politics, is that though politics is an important domain to which we should individually apply our rationality. See? Actually should apply rationality, so weird. But it's a terrible domain in which to learn rationality. And he used the example that in in artificial intelligence, and particularly in the domain of non-monotonic reasoning, which I don't even know if I pronounced that right because I don't know what that is.
You pronounced it right.
Okay, great. There's a standard problem. Quote, all Quakers are pacifists. All Republicans are not pacifists. Nixon is a Quaker and a Republican. Is Nixon a pacifist? Is Nixon a pacifist? And he goes on to say, what on earth was the point of choosing that as an example? Because you've just alienated whatever portion of your audience is, Republican.
Or at least made them feel like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You're trying to talk about an actual problem in programming, and you have just put a certain amount of people on edge and in defensive fight mode.
especially when when the circumstance, all A are B, all C are not A, D is B and A, or D is B and C, is DA. Like that, I guess what I'm getting at, it could have been more abstract, and instead you make it politically aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is actually, as a word problem, more comprehensible to
Definitely.
someone who's like a newbie programmer. But like, yeah, you could have picked something that was non-political.
Yeah. And that's what he said, that it feels really good to get that jab in, but don't do it.
Yeah, a lot of my college professors, I remember doing that too. And it was interesting because I had college professors that had different political opinions. I mean, academia, like they tend to think of it as leaning really liberal, and a lot of them were. But I definitely had this one right-wing professor, and I noticed it a lot more because I tend to be more left-leaning. And he would just, he was like very biased, and he would use like his personal anecdotes and like his like little jokes that were like kind of jabbing at the left all the time, and it was so irritating. And then I realized that all my like left-leaning professors were actually doing the same thing, and I didn't notice it. I was kind of sitting there chuckling along, like, aha, good joke, Professor So-and-so. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And I know we do that on the podcast sometimes, too.
But we don't make an effort about being I mean, we make an effort to not be political podcast, but we don't make an effort to be nonpartisan.
Right.
And out of curiosity, did you go to a state school or a non-state school?
It was a state school.
Because I don't remember any of my professors being like, I was at community college was a liberal arts major, and then basically psychology is a liberal art. Although I always like to plug this, at CSU it's a science class, or it's a science major. So, because most places it's a liberal arts major, but I don't remember anybody. I guess I don't remember much of college, but
I don't
not because
either.
I had a good time, because I was tired, not because I was partying too much.
Yeah, no, I was cripplingly depressed. So it was like 5 years, kind of like mostly gone. That's creepy.
Yeah.
It's most of my life.
But
Which
yeah,
is weird.
I had one. That is weird.
Wait, not the crippling depression. Mild, tepid depression. But I think I've been on this tangent before, but my like confidence in my autobiographical memory went really down when I learned about Elizabeth Loftist's research on how easy it is to fake memories.
Oh yeah.
And then I realized that maybe I had some realization where I discovered that one of my memories was fake, and ever since then I stopped trusting them. So I guess I've been in the background recycling them all into the bullshit bucket, and they've all been being thrown out. But it's amazing how much I've forgotten of stuff. But it's not like
Nothing that's ever happened to you actually happened, man.
yeah, man. But at the very least, it's not like I've forgot like addresses or like people or something. It's just like if you asked me to name a memory from 11th grade, I would struggle to find one. But like if you showed me a picture, I'd be like, oh, I remember that. But I don't have anything sorted that way in my head.
Well, I don't think normally people don't just randomly recall things anyway. Memories are sparked by something else that's happening.
When you're meditating, well, or at least me, but I've heard that this is a common experience. I just get random memories that I had completely forgotten.
I get random thoughts, but they're almost never memories.
No, I like distinctly get memories from my childhood that I hadn't remembered up until that point, but they just suddenly come back. It's really weird, and it's interesting because it shows that meditation is kind of doing something.
Yeah.
But we're really derailing this.
Okay. I just wanted to point out at the very end, it says he has a note that now that he's been named as a co-moderator of Overcoming Bias, he's adding the disclaimer that it's just his opinion and not a statement of official Overcoming Bias policy, which, I don't know, I just thought that was kind of neat because it brings it back to the whole, oh yeah, this was originally posted on someone else's blog as part of a conversation. And I would assume they took that line out of Overcoming Bias AI to Zombies.
I don't remember that
Or
line being in
Rationality
there.
AI to Zombies. The what?
I don't remember that line being in there, although again, I could have just forgotten it.
Well, it wouldn't make any sense in what is basically a textbook, right?
Yeah. It might not be in there. I'm not sure. I know that in the comments section, Hansen and Yudkowsky went back and forth a little bit on whether or not it was, appropriate to use political examples.
Mm-hmm.
And they came back and like, can we at least agree to like not make points just to get in that nice solid dig about how dumb your opponents are? And I was like, oh yeah, totally. Don't do that. So I think they kind of just hesitated a little bit on the like how appropriate is political discussion in rationality. They kind of went back and forth on that, but they were able to agree that like let's not be dicks, which I feel like is a really solid baseline.
Yeah.
There's one core value that my team has at work that we put together because everyone was supposed
No
to.
dicks.
No, it was be excellent to each other. Like Bill and Ted.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Which we settled on because don't be a dick. We had to write these down and put them on a board, so we didn't want to do that. But
So that's what it actually secretly means, though.
well, I think those mean the same thing, right?
Nah, I
No,
like
be
the
excellent to each other's better.
yeah.
It's more positive and it's more like proactive. Don't be a dick is a don't thing, whereas be excellent is a do thing.
Fair enough. I feel like they amount to like many of the same behaviors, but you're right. One is like more helpful.
I actually don't think they amount to the same behaviors. Stopping doing things kind of puts you at a baseline, but like be excellent means kind of go above and beyond.
Oh, then we
Try
should
to
have
help.
stuck with don't be a dick. We're not an above and beyond team.
Aw.
Well, it's aspirational.
Yeah, well, speaking of aspirations, my daily aspiration at work is to suck a little less every day, which is I've been told I should have it be a little better every day, but I feel like this is an easier way to motivate myself. So
Whatever works for you, man.
that's what works.
Our next Less Strong Sequence post is Just Lose Hope Already.
How appropriate.
It gives two examples, basically, of people who were all in on something and just kept going all in long past the point of reason. The more astounding example, which I'll quote here, is that LTCM was a hedge fund, and LTCM raked in giant profits over its first 3 years, and then in 1998, the inefficiencies that they were exploiting started to vanish. Other people knew about the trick, so it stopped working. LTCM refused to lose hope. Addicted to 40% annual returns, they borrowed more and more leverage to exploit tinier and tinier margins. When everything started to go wrong for LTCM, they had an equity of $2.47 billion, leverage of $124.5 billion, and derivative positions of $1.25 trillion. So these are guys that really should have stopped a long, long time ago and just refused to give up hope.
So for us non-accountant people, I know what equity is, but I don't know the difference between leverage and derivative positions.
Leverage would be basically debt that they had took on in order to borrow more.
Sure.
Yeah. Derivative positions, I don't know, man.
Well, I was curious because it was like another order of magnitude higher.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the fuck you could do for $1.25 trillion. All right. Well, anyone who wants to know that can know that, I guess.
Yeah, anyone who wants to tell us what a derivative position is in this case, please do.
There's one guy who's like, yes.
Now my expertise comes out.
I'm glad that we're doing this reread because the sequence is so short that I read it so long ago that I'd actually forgotten it.
Yeah, I had to.
But I remember Professor Quirrell going to pains to try to teach Harry how to lose in methods of rationality, so for whatever reason that stuck in my mind more. But I actually think that the lesson's better explained in the sequence, which is probably because it's in the form of a real-world consequence of losing money in continual failing business ventures than a lesson being taught by an evil wizard who obviously had ulterior motives. I actually didn't buy it at all in the story when he was like, lose, Harry. I was like, no.
Really?
Yeah, like, I don't know.
I think what Quirrell's trying to do was teach him that you need to know when to not escalate.
Yeah.
And like, so you keep the stakes in mind and then see how high you want to keep going for that. Because yeah, you could just burn yourself out. You know, if his stupid ploy to what did he just win? Oh, he got Snape to apologize in front of everybody by threatening to walk out on Dumbledore and damn the whole future of magical Britain. So he was saying like, look, if your thing hadn't worked, you would have just lost, and so you'd have been expelled over what? Snape being a dick? Snape or getting detention is what it was or something, right? So like, come on, you need to know when to pull your punches. So I think it's a good lesson for any aspiring Dark Lord, but it does harken back to this too. So
well, the thing is though, even though this is like more, it's a better example, I guess, in the fact that it actually applies to real life, and you can see like, yeah, they should have stopped long before that. I didn't remember this post, but I did remember 6th grade people beating up on 1st grade Harry Potter. You know, that stuck in my mind for I don't know. Ever. I haven't forgotten it anyway.
It's true, and there are slightly different lessons maybe as part of the point too.
Yeah,
you know, one is like know when to not escalate and know when to not go all out, because if you go all out and lose, you could end up totally fucked. But this is more just like, don't keep riding on wishful thinking. You know, have realistic ambitions and keep them in check.
It seems like it's the same lesson actually.
Learn to realize when you should give up because you're losing.
Yeah. I guess I had a difference, and then I spelled tea on myself and forgot. The people who, these LTCM hedge fund people, they didn't lose because they weren't trying hard enough, and they refused to put all their cards on the table, and they took the kid gloves off and really just said, we're going to do this. They lost because the system changed and there was no winning. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like, I feel like Harry in that situation, if there was no chance of winning, he wouldn't have gone that way. He would have cheated or done something else, right?
Well,
it was like, no, this is where I can keep raising the stakes. But he actually had stakes to raise, whereas these people were just riding on wishes.
Well, knowing Harry, he probably could have done something to win against those bullies, right? But then that would have resulted in something even worse, like blowing up half of Hogwarts.
Sure. Yeah. And he had his plans on how to win too. There was that part where he turned on his real enemy, the defense professor. Right.
But the thing is, these guys had a plan as well, right? They were making profits the next quarter. They just kept borrowing and leveraging more, and it ended up with blowing up half of Hogwarts in financial terms for them.
I think the difference though is that they weren't actually, they didn't have a plan or adapt or pivot when things got weird. They just kept doubling down. You know, it'd be like the person who goes to Vegas and they bring $500, they lose it all immediately, So they go withdraw more money. They start maxing out credit cards. They start whatever black marketing organs and their watch and their wedding ring. Like at that point, and they're still just playing blackjack, right? They're not trying harder. They're just keeping trying. So there's a difference. I'm belaboring probably way too much, but I guess they felt different to me, and I wanted to articulate that. These people are just playing blackjack over and over and refuse to acknowledge that blackjack is a losing game. Actually, blackjack's a great game if you want to sit and play. Your odds are pretty good as far as poker, but
They're only slightly less than 1 and 2.
yeah, which is not bad. Well, I like games where you're just playing against one person.
Okay.
I'm gonna get back to your point, Steven, but and maybe this is just me, but while I agree with what this sequence is saying, I don't like the negative tone of just lose hope already.
Right.
Even though the focus is on knowing when to stop trying, I think the point might be at the expense of the value of failure. Well, they had there was the hedge fund, and then there's this fictional character Casey in the sequence who keeps failing, and the writing actually kind of made fun of Casey and saying like he hasn't failed, you see, he just had a learning experience, and yeah, so he had failed at trying the same thing 8 times. And he's about to try again the 9th time, so he's clearly not actually learning from the failure, which is like what you were saying, Steven.
I don't think that was a fictional character, was it?
Oh, was it?
No, that was a real guy.
That was a real person?
So I think what he was saying when he is like, oh, you see, he just had a learning lesson, or he had a learning moment, which I think he put that in like the kind of sarcastic italics because that's probably what he's saying to people and why he's trying for the 9th time doing the same thing. No, those were, that wasn't failure, that was experience. And it's like, yeah, but you're doing the same thing,
Yeah,
right?
well, we have a lot of societal kind of, fall off the horse 9 times, get up 10, and also like if you just believe really hard. But failure I think can actually be really important, although it's mostly like important because it tells you that you need to alter your strategy or try something else instead. So yeah, I don't actually disagree with the sequence. I'm just not a fan of the tone.
Yeah, it is pretty negative sounding. Who hurt you, Eliezer?
I think I'd have liked it more if it focused more on the how to be smarter and how to calculate your odds of success part of they just kind of like mentioned that.
Yeah.
This is what you should do, and then moved away from it. It just like reinforces to me that failure is shameful and should be avoided at all cost. And meanwhile, I think most people don't fail enough because they're so risk averse and afraid of looking bad that they never try anything.
I definitely see how that's an interpretation. That's not how I took it, but I totally see how he opened himself up to that reading. I think what he would say is like if you fall off a horse 5 times, like check the stirrups or like adjust your grip the 6th time. Don't just get back on and fall right back off. Like it's about actually adapting and actually learning from your mistakes. But he doesn't spend enough time on that in this post.
Stop just having hope that it'll be different this time and actually do something.
Yeah. And as far as like things you can actually do, there's one of our notes here was every profession has a different way to be smart, different skills to learn and rules to follow. Which
I put note here. That's kind of the thing we talked about in the last episode with the person who said civilization is basically systematized winning already. A lot of our organizations in life have these rules and systems that guide you into winning as long as you follow them.
Yeah,
and that's Eliezer's basically saying the same thing here. Each profession has ways to succeed at it.
Yeah, and the next point too is one that I made when someone asked like, how do I apply rationality in my real life? Which is like I try not to suck.
Yeah.
But how not to be stupid has a great deal in common across professions. Mm-hmm. And there was one of my philosophy professors defined wisdom as like the skill of not sucking at life. And I liked that, and it could be the skill of excelling at life, but I like the not sucking because it's more generic. There are pitfalls that you can fall into basically wherever you are, and identifying and blocking against those is good. But there are too many directions to reach in to have like generic advice on how to win. I think right. I think a lot of advice on how to win is really advice on how not to lose.
Yeah. He says, in continuation of that quote, if you set out to teach someone how to not turn little mistakes into big mistakes, it's nearly always the same art, whether it's hedge funds or romance. And one of the keys is this: be ready to admit you lost.
Yeah, maybe he didn't think of the line "learn how to lose" until later, because that'd have been a better name for this post.
Yeah.
Rather than just lose hope.
Yeah, it's still pretty negative though.
It is. I think
I had a hard time with that too, even when I was reading Methods of Rationality. That was kind of why I had the knee-jerk reaction of like, no, don't, learn how to lose, learn how to win better. But
and that's the lesson Harry takes, and he's ready to destroy the universe to do it, right?
Yeah.
So
the whole story is kind of that lesson.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
Okay, our last one is you are not hiring the top 1%.
Again, another negative post. I feel like
what was going on
It was like
this
a bad
particular week? where he makes the point that when you get 200 resumes and hire the best person, does that mean you're hiring the top 0.5%? Because a lot of places do advertise that we only hire the top 1%, and I know a lot of
Tech companies.
well, I was gonna maybe I don't know. I was gonna say that short story markets will publish, what percentage of stories that they receive they actually accept and publish, and for some of them it's like 1% or less. But he goes on to say, what happens to the other 199 candidates that you didn't hire? They go look for another job. So it may only be a few good people that are getting hired, and the other 199 people are just the same terrible people rotating, going from employer to employer, making everyone think they're hiring the top 1% when they're just hiring average people who aren't the shitty bottom 199.
Yeah. So part of this is just failure to understand like how distributions work and how samples work. And so like it's like math problems. Like you when you say this, you can't write on paper in like numbers what you mean without contradicting yourself or without showing that you don't really understand what you're saying. But I think the other point there is slipped my mind. I guess I don't know. This is something that you're right. A lot of companies or publicists or things will tout like we only do the best, and it's like no, you don't. You do what everyone else is doing.
It sounds like it does sound good at first, right? At first blush. And, my little question here at the bottom is, what does this have to do with rationality?
Yeah. Is that a real question?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you had I thought that was like your prompt to give an answer.
Well, part of it is just noticing that they don't understand probability distributions. But maybe they don't not understand, but it's a marketing ploy, like trying to get investment money or to make their company look good.
I think a lot of people really believe in it.
I had a teacher once who wanted us all to do the best in the class. And I pointed out in front of the class, because I was an obstinate student, that like that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
We can't all do the best. Because I had this joke that went back, I think it was Jerry Seinfeld, who was like, there are some doctors graduating at the bottom of the class, and whatever a passing grade is, there are doctors who are squeaking by, and somebody's got an appointment with him on Monday is the joke. But so whether a passing grade as a doctor is a 90% or 70%, there's somebody graduating at the bottom of the class, because they can't all be the top of the class. Even if they're all getting A pluses, somebody's doing better than the other people, or your measuring metric sucks. Because if they're all getting A pluses, 104%, then you're not measuring anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently that's a lot of how school works.
Well, it is, but so the example I gave my teacher, because she was annoyed at that and said that it was negative thinking, I was like, we can't all be the tallest person in the class either.
Mm-hmm.
You get up.
How old were you at this point?
I was this annoying as a child too, but I was 19 probably when this happened.
Your teacher told you that shit? Said that shit to 19-year-olds?
This was a community college English teacher. The only reason, it was a nightmare.
Like, I can see trying to tell that to fourth graders and thinking it'll fly, but I cannot see anyone trying to tell teenagers, I want every one of you to be the best in the class, and not get like...
She wanted it to be like a positive thinking thing. And I'm like, that's fine. You should say you want us all to kick ass or us all to do great, but we can't all be the best in the class. That's just not how the best works.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what she said to my tallest example, but she might have said that as negative thinking or something. I don't know.
It sounds kind of negative.
But
Like, if she expressly was just trying to use it as a positive thinking experience, just let her have it.
she totally sucked.
Oh, well
Yeah.
then.
No, she was a bully.
Then punish her.
She sucked. And it wasn't just me who thought that. She gave me so much shit that no less than 3 other students came up to me at some point and was like, "What is her problem with you?" I'm like, "That's a good question, man." And then somebody
She was
said,
just trying to inspire you to be the best, man.
"Oh no!" Like all the time throughout, like the rest of the semester, she'd call me out. And
That's how she inspires you.
Tried to get me to drop out and stuff. Yeah, it sucked. But no, I don't think it's negative. There are 3 of us in the room. One of us is the tallest, right? That's not negative. That's just true.
Wait, she said that the tallest example was negative?
I don't remember what she said about that, but I maintain that those are analogous enough to make sense. I do see how one is being not positive, but I don't think one is being not realistic.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about you're not hiring the top 1%. I did want to highlight that there was a comment from someone called Kickstand that said, consider this, 99% of the human population knows nothing about programming. Thus, any programmer you hire is in the top 1%, which is a little bit more positive, or a little bit more, kind of puts it, again, like in a different context.
I think what it has to do with rationality, why it's included in the sequences, is because it does point out the fact that people aren't thinking, I guess to fall back to this term, they have a bad map of the world where they assume that since they have these 100 candidates and they pick the one best one, they're hiring the top 1% without looking at the greater territory and seeing what the representative sample actually is, right? And rationality is a way to, reevaluate what you're seeing and try to really see it in the greater context so that you're not fooling yourself.
Yeah, at the very least, just understanding. I think there's also a kind of a precondition that's never made explicit because it's almost never necessary in the sequences, but a prerequisite for being a better rationalist than me is like some math skills. Like if you don't know enough about probability theory to follow exactly why that's the case, then Eliezer might say, look, grab a math book and get caught up.
Well, it's not even math. It's pretty simple once someone points out to you that, look, it's just the same terrible 199 people all the time. So the top one isn't really the best. It's just better than those people. It's just a way of stepping back and looking harder as opposed to taking things at face value, I guess.
Is there any example that we can use in our real lives since we're not hiring people
Yeah.
Yeah, I
for
was
this?
kind of thinking that like it's a fun thought experiment. How would you actually munchkin the job market? Is it like, okay, we need to just snipe people from other companies because like, if they're already being hired, so they're taken out of the job pool, well.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, good luck, because all the best people are gonna be working at Google and Facebook and all the big four, right?
Do you
So
That's
Go
generally
try to find undiscovered people who aren't in the job market, like
Right.
give them an
Most-
offer.
most people do try to hire away from other companies.
yeah, but you're
that's
never
the
gonna
thing.
hire away from Google because they're gonna pay $60,000 more a year than you are.
And
So
there's the thing that like once you're in a relationship, that's when people actually want to start dating you or something, right?
yeah, it's same with having a job. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to find a job when you have one. Maybe it's for the exact same reason. 'Cause
Maybe
my
people
thing-
know this.
Well, no, I think it's that. Maybe you're confident because you don't need a job now. And
Oh,
people
yeah,
are like,
yeah.
whatever. But the other thing is that somebody else has already taken a risk on you
Mhm.
and said, oh, okay, they're safe enough bet. If someone else is already, either paying them to work there or dating them, then they can't be all that bad. So that's already weeded out a lot of the bad people for me.
Yeah, it's social proof.
Yeah. I guess I just realized the social proof for dating and for job market are the exact same thing in that context.
Okay, so
Alright.
that was our sequences for this week.
Huzzah.
For next time, we will be talking about policy debates should not appear one-sided and Birch's Law. And there will be links to both of those on our website, which is thebasinconspiracy.com.
That sounds right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm having a brain fart right now. I'm
no.
sorry.
I'm giving you a
I'm
hard
going
time.
to edit that so I do not sound nearly so stupid.
No, you're good.
I thought it was funny.